Welcome back to Python with Andrew, where we continue to explore data types in Python. And I want to move on now to lists, which is now we're starting to get away from the basic data types and start using data types that are incredibly powerful and that we'll use in our programs a lot. And we'll start with lists. There's actually a number of them like this. We'll start with lists. And I must say, compared to older style languages, using lists in Python is very, very easy to do and very, very intuitive for us. So let's jump over and talk more about lists and look at a few examples. So you can see there that I've got a simple list called list1, and the elements of the list are water, orange juice, beer, Coke. So this list is obviously drinks. And the way we do a list is we have an open square bracket, and then we have the items with commas, and then we have a closed square brackets. Now, a list doesn't have to be words. A list could be list2. It could be a mixture of things. It could be water, could be the number 34, could be a Boolean, in fact, and it could be, in fact, very interesting. We could make it another list of 1, 2, 3. All right. So you can see a list can be a list of anything, which makes it incredibly powerful. And as you see, as we get more and more complex programs, we'll have lists of all sorts of things. Typically, you don't vary the data types like that, but I just wanted to show you how we do it. Now, if I just print this list, print list1, and if I go over to my other side, you should see it would be, as we expect, it's going to look like that one there. Probably not the best way of printing it out, but we'll fix that up in a while. Now, if you look above, I've said a list is ordered, a mutable data type that allows duplicates. So let's take that one by one. First of all, a list is ordered. So if I do print list1 subscript 0, that's the first element of the list, water. Okay, and equally, if I did the, if I change that to 1, it would be the second element, orange juice. Okay, so we can go through the list one by one. It is ordered, and that order, in this case, doesn't change. We can change it if we like, but once we've got a list, it is ordered. And that's really useful because it means that if I go through the list one by one, I'm assured of getting the whole list all the way through. And you can see that I've accessed each element of the list by using open bracket and then the index 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, etc. Remember, as with most things in Python, we always start at 0. So the 0 element is water, 1 is orange juice, 2 is beer, 3 is Coke. If I try to do the fourth one, you would expect I would get an error, of course, because the list index is out of range. So let me go back and do that to 0. So that's what we mean by it's ordered. Okay. The other thing I'm saying there is mutable. Now, I introduced the word immutable for strings. The opposite is mutable, or a simpler way of saying is we can change the elements in the list. So, for example, if I get rid of this statement here, if I say list1 0 is not water, but is now equal to lemon juice. Okay, I can do that. And now if I print the list again, you would expect the first list, so let me clear that, the first list is water, orange juice, beer and Coke. The second list is lemon juice. So I can change any one of the items here. That's what we mean by mutable. In Python, some data structures we can change, like lists, some we can't, like strings. And then I say that we can also have duplicates. So I can certainly add a list up here. Coke, and then I'll add water again. Okay. So let me get rid of all that. Let me print list 2. So we've added there, we've got water at the top and water at the end. So we're allowed to have duplicates. Again, some data types, like a set, does not allow duplicates, and that has particular use. Lists, on the other hand, it doesn't care. It's just a bunch of items in the list. Some strings, some numbers, whatever they happen to be, but also we can have duplicates. And again, that's really useful because we can collect items, put them in a list, and then process them later. Now I've shown you how to, so let me go back to my original list. I've shown you how to access, and we've also looked at accessing for strings in the past, where we can have -1, which, as you'd expect, would give me the last element of the list. I can also do a range 2 to 3. Actually, let's do 1 to 3. All right. And if I do that one, I get orange juice and beer. And remember, whenever we're doing ranges in Python, it starts at the first, but ends one before the last. So that's item number 1 and item number 2. It doesn't include item number 3. Okay, so we can access things quite easy. And then probably the last simple operator that we can do on lists, we can add lists together, right? Just like we could add strings, etc. So we could have, let me list 2. I'm just going to use numbers now. Okay, and we can print list 1 plus list 2. Okay, oops. List 2. Clear that, and we'll have a look at that. Okay, and it just adds it to the end. Okay, so nice, easy addition, nice and simple. Some people ask, can you multiply and negate? You don't use that. You don't do that. You can't do that. But you can add, and that's usually good to add 2 lists together. We'll see other ways that we can add 2 lists together. And the last thing I want to touch on is we can loop through a list. So we can use a for loop and say for x is in list 1, print x, all right, and that should go through. Let me get rid of this to simplify it all. We can do that, and it just gives us all the elements in the list. So the x is going to go through index 0, 1, 2, and 3, bring out the value, and then we can use it however we want. I'm just doing a simple print. We could have equally gone for I in range the length of the list, right? Print list I. And in that case, I'm doing exactly the same. Oops, sorry, print. I made a mistake there. I in range length of list 1. I can see what my mistake was. I actually invented this new variable called list. It's actually list 1 that we've been using. So let me try that one. And again, we just loop through the list using our index. Most people like to use the one above, where you're saying, grab the items out of the list and do something. But equally, people often look at the for loop and say, I want to know how many times it's doing it in a numeric sense. both work. It becomes personal preference. Older programming languages do not have this format above, whereas Python does, and so you get to choose which one. I personally like this one, but I must say I flip between one or the other. On the other hand, if we use the while loop, I equals 0, we need to use I is less than the length of list 1. We need to use the counter print this 1 I. So we have to do the second version. Then I plus equals 1. And it should do the same thing again. Yep, it does. So for loop, we've got two options. The while loop, we really have to use the numeric counter, but either one's fine. Okay, that's all it for the basic list. My next video will be about lists as objects, and we'll look at the methods that we can use with lists. Don't forget to subscribe if you're enjoying these videos. Thanks and have a great day.